This just in. Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News.
Is out at Fox News. The right-wing network just announced the two have parted ways. CNN senior media reporter Oliver Darcy is here with more on this. What are you learning? He was out on Friday. Will we see him say goodbye?
We're not going to see him say goodbye. This is really stunning news coming from Fox. They say his last show was April 21st. They put out a very short statement. They say they thank him for his service, and that's it. That's all we know right now. But of course, this comes days after. Last week, you remember, Fox News settled this massive defamation lawsuit with Dominion voting systems over the election lies that it promoted in the wake of the 2020 election. So they paid out $787 million, the highest known defamation settlement ever publicly known in U.S. media. So this is coming days after that. Unclear, of course, whether this is related. It's kind of hard to imagine that these things happen. Tucker Carlson was sowing doubts about the U.S. election results just up until the last few weeks. So it's possible that there was a relation.
Nope. I think Tucker Carlson wanted more money, realized how much he's worth, saw the Steven Crowder deal, saw all of these other dudes in independent media getting like 50 milli contracts, noticed that he could probably demand way more. And then Fox News was like, no, we're in the pocket for $787 million. And, a lot of it will be covered by insurance, but that insurance premium is going to be baked in. So he most likely was like, I want a lot of money. And then they were like, no, you can't have a lot of money. So he was like, okay, well, fuck you. I'm out then.
Relationship there, but really big news. And I should also point out that they've stuck with him really through quite a lot. He has promoted conspiracy theories about the vaccines. He has said things that are just blatantly anti-immigrant. He has, like I said, promoted doubts about the 2020 election. They have stuck with him throughout all of this. So, really shocking news that now he's no longer with the network.
Yeah, the big question, as you say, is why now? Fox has let their number one people go before. I mean, Bill O'Reilly, they pushed out when he was number one.
Yeah, Bill O'Reilly was pushed out when he was number one for like a biblical amount of sexual harassment. Like, Bill O'Reilly is responsible for killing someone. You know what I mean? Like, for stochastic terror against an actual doctor that used to perform abortions. He used to call him Tiller, the baby killer. And then someone literally went to George Tiller's house and fucking killed him with a gun, with an assault rifle. And that didn't stop Bill O'Reilly's fame. If anything, it probably, Fox News doubled down, basically. Oh, was it at church? I thought it was at his house. That makes it, okay. Shot after church service while getting lemonade. Yeah. Thoughts on this theory? I'm just going to throw this out there. Carlson and Stewart? That's disgusting. No, I fucking hope not. What an insane liberal ass fucking take. No, absolutely not, dude. Tucker Carlson is literally ideologically a white nationalist. He should have no prominence. He should have no platform in a perfect world. No, not like placing him next to, a supremely famous liberal that is probably going to agree with him in a lot of instances, especially because Tucker Carlson is a very skilled propagandist. So is Jon Stewart, but LA Times says Tucker Carlson's exit is related to the discrimination lawsuit filed by Abby Grossberg, the producer Fox fired last month. Carlson's senior executive producer Justin Wells has also been terminated, according to people familiar with the matter. No way. I made a thread of hogs malding in the fucking tweets. That is wild. If it's like, two reasons why people only get fired at Fox News or let go at Fox News. And it's not because they're doing too much devastating white supremacist propaganda. Let me explain to you. Fox News fires you for two reasons. One, you are creating legal complications that they cannot handle in-house with arbitration as they normally would, right? That was the famous Bill O'Reilly example. Or you want too much money. And the you want too much money oftentimes is settled because they will just fucking, put entire stacks of moolah in front of you and light it on fire because they have a tremendous amount of money regardless. So if it's not the if it's not the money side, which I still think it could be, because this is happening during like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know enough about what's going on behind the scenes. I have no idea. Fox News is famously tight-lipped about shit like this. They operate like an old school media company and not like Twitter, which is a leaky ship that you can immediately get all of the latest and greatest information in detail from. You know, there haven't been like a lot of Slack channel communication that you can access with respect to Fox News and the internal communication. So I don't know.
They're doing this now with Tucker Carlson. We talk about this happening in the wake of the Dominion decision. Now, it's interesting with Carlson, which is that it wasn't his show or his shows that Dominion was suing over necessarily for promoting false news. It was some of his behind-the-scenes stuff that was legally problematic for Fox, but he wasn't one of the people who helped get them in trouble with Dominion, was he?
No, he wasn't the main culprit that really spawned this lawsuit. But, you know, it's not to say also that other hosts could not be eventually leaving the network as well. I mean, this raises a lot of questions about whether the network potentially is trying to at least rein in some of the more extreme people on the channel. I mean, of course, Tucker Carlson, the most extreme probably on that channel. I should also note, John, why this is so important. I mean, Tucker Carlson, outside Donald Trump, really was the person commanding the GOP, really directing it. You saw Republican lawmakers, prominent Republican lawmakers, often grovel at his feet.
Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz, for instance, groveled at his feet, and others because they were afraid of him going on his primetime show and lashing out at them. So this is not only huge news in the world of media, but also in the world of politics, where he was really pushing the GOP in that extremist direction.
And it's also, just to that point, that's also, his show is also a place that a lot of Republican lawmakers or anyone who wanted to speak to Donald Trump would go in order to.
Dude, if anything, during the Dominion shit, he literally was routinely shitting on the psychos that during the Dominion process, Tucker Carlson was very outspoken about how psychotic these like Dominion, he literally said it was fake openly. Now, obviously, he still leaned into it on his public-facing commentary, but he certainly was nowhere near as unhinged as anyone that had Sidney Powell on the show. He certainly was nowhere near as unhinged as Janine Perot. Obviously, like, so this being like a Dominion-related thing would be very shocking. This is the narrative. The prevailing narrative, it seems, is that Tucker Carlson, who was leaving Fox News, and there's more, this is breaking, so there's more information. There's more information coming out about this all the time. And one of the things that I guess LA Times and the New York Times are reporting on is that Tucker Carlson is accused of promoting a hostile work environment. But like, this seems so. Carlson's former head of booking, Abby Grossberg, said that male producers regularly use vulgarities to describe women and frequently make anti-Semitic jokes. But yeah, but like, really? That's what fucking Fox News would like fire you over? What a bunch of pussies, dude. I'm actually surprised. Like, no shot. This doesn't make any sense. This is their cash cow, boys. Like, it's not like Fox News is fucking woke. Like, what do you mean? This is written like a person who has never watched Tucker Carlson. You know what I mean? It's like that makes no sense. I mean, I've often talked about how like these are still, everyone's a liberal at the end of the day. Fox News is a neoliberal institution. So ultimately, like, yes, they will do certain things that you would find strange. Like Matt Walsh will always misgender people. Fox News, on the other hand, I mean, Tucker Carlson might misgender people every now and then, but Fox News is an institution as a style guide, and they will usually not misgender like a trans person deliberately, other than the editorial staff, which might take like, some editorial independence. So like, there is weird things like that. Obviously, that would never cause someone to get fired, though. You know what I mean? Tucker Carlson's first cable news was on MSNBC. Bitch, I know. You telling me? The decision to fire Tucker Carlson came straight from Fox Corp chairman Rupert Murdoch, according to people familiar with the situation who were not authorized to comment. Murdoch said to be concerned over Carlson's coverage of the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol, where the host has promoted the conspiracy theory that it was provoked by government agents. Tucker Carlson has called Ray Epps a Texas man who participated in the storming of the Capitol but did not enter the building and FBI plant without any evidence. Epps was interviewed on 60 Minutes where he said he has been subjected to death threats as a result of Carlson's statements about him. The FBI also told 60 Minutes that Epps never worked for them. The decision is not related to the $787.5 million settlement. Dude, this is fucking... Rupert is aging, making him more woke, damn. No, I mean, I could see... Guys, I told you this before. I have information from, like, not first-hand, but second-hand accounts of people that worked in one of fucking Rupert Murdoch's, like, wineries that I think... that, like, he is incredibly terrified of COVID, right? So what Rupert Murdoch says on his properties, on his media properties, and what he personally thinks is two very different things in general, none of it fucking matters because he is responsible for a metric ton of like hyper right-wing, ultra-nationalist propaganda. And as long as they fucking make money off of it, Rupert Murdoch is fine. Now, does he individually consider certain people to be a liability? Potentially. If anything, they would probably consider him to be, Tucker Carlson to be a potential liability, which doesn't make sense unless he did something that was really fucked behind the scenes. This is his absolute fucking, I mean, I wouldn't say this is his cash cow, but this is his most popular news broadcast. Tucker Carlson is the most popular news broadcaster on the United States airwaves, okay? Just understand, he's the primetime guy. This is his show. His show is the most popular show. Anyway, so here, let's take a look at this entire thread. I mean, instead of this one, I want to use an old video of mine, actually. Let's see, because I covered this at the Young Turks. This shit had 1.4 million views, baby.
Yourself, you tiny brain, and I hope this gets picked up.
Here's Tucker Carlson losing his mind at a Dutch historian he had on as a guest. My favorite crypto fascist lost his cool after having Rutger Bregman on a show, thinking this would be the usual the lefter hypocrites hour.
Are you the first person ever to note that people are flying private to talk about global warming and that none of them mention tax avoidance? Has anyone ever said that before at Davos that you know of?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on Davos history, but it is a bit hypocritical, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Just listen to how excited Tucker is, thinking this guy is just going to play into his narrative after dunking on a bunch of billionaires at Davos.
I mean, 1,500 private jets have flown in here to hear Sir David Attenborough speak about, you know, how we're wrecking the planet.
The vast majority of Americans, for years and years now, according to the polls, including Fox News viewers and including Republicans, are in favor of higher taxes on the rich. But no one's saying that at Davos, just as no one's saying it on Fox News, right?
And others have noted that. We've noted it on this show. We've just never gone to Davos and said it out loud as you did. So if I was wearing a hat, I would take it off to you. What response did you get?
I mean, they were not very happy with me, but I'm just, I think, a random Dutch historian who's basically saying whatever around the globe is thinking.
But this is the moment when the wheels start coming off, when Bregman starts talking about taxes. And watch Tucker malfunction because he doesn't have a dialogue tree prepared for this point.
Well, what was interesting, I thought, about what you said was you noted something. I mean, many people have called for higher taxes, but very few
Well,
have
not on this
noted.
channel.
It would be interesting to know how many hours of Fox you've watched.
There you go, deflect, drive the narrative back to the tax avoidance thing. Don't talk about higher taxes. Oh, please, dear God, don't talk about higher taxes on Fox News. And after this, Tucker tries to claim this is a different economy now, so we somehow can't have higher taxes for the wealthy for some reason, even though the reason labor was outsourced overseas is also because of capitalism, but whatever. But Bregman doesn't cave and actually doubles down and then drives the point that Tucker is working to hold up the system.
So I think the issue really is one of corruption and of people being bribed and of not talking about the real issues. What the Murdochs basically want you to do is to scapegoat immigrants instead of talking about tax avoidance.
Whew! Calling out the Murdochs, billionaire tax avoidance, and the immigrant scapegoats? Oh, Lord, dude.
You are a millionaire funded by billionaires. That's what you
guess.
are. You're not part of the solution. You're part of the problem, actually.
Got him. Now watch Tuckerbot malfunction.
AOC, wait, but can I just say, and
You're just not talking about certain things.
It doesn't even, Fox doesn't even play where you are.
Here I imagine Tucker falling down a deep, dark bottomless well, and this is him just like trying to grab onto anything, just a ledge, a branch, anything. And this is all he can come up with. Despicable.
Well, have you heard of the internet? I can watch things whatever I want, you know? I have, actually. I can't say I'm a great fan of your show, but I do my homework when you invite me on your show. You're probably not gonna air this, but I went to Davos to speak truth to power, and I'm doing exactly the same thing right now. You might not like it, but you're a millionaire funded by billionaires, and that's the reason why you're not talking about these issues.
But I am talking about these issues.
Yeah, only now. Come on, you jumped the bandwagon. You're all like, oh, I'm against the globalist elite, blah, blah, blah. It's not very convincing, to be honest.
Why don't you go yourself, you tiny brain, and I hope this gets picked up. Because you're a moron. I tried to give you a hearing, but you were too annoying for people.
You can't handle the criticism, can you?
I don't know how this clip is allowed on the internet. This is literally my kink, okay? Some people
Redhead with no freckles. We got a daywalker on our hands, boys. Okay, we're going to move on from this. There's more because there's so much more to talk about here. I don't even know which one this is about. Once the left complains about race, we can address the white genocide conspiracy theory, I guess. This is from fucking 4 years ago. You want to see?
Hi, Tucker Carlson's white pilling your dads every night.
On the left, you may have noticed everything is about race. Everything, even things that have nothing to do with race.
There's one thing Tucker Carlson hates. It's continuing to wear bow ties. That and talking about race. Unless it's about preserving the white race.
Everybody gets a safe space except white men. They are hated and despised. Attacking white men for being white men. Attack white men for their privilege in a whole bunch of ways.
I was handed a box of saltine crackers, and in a group chat during the event, a student photoshopped my face onto a cracker.
This is what Tucker Carlson's doing with Bill O'Reilly's coveted 8 p.m. slot on Fox News, which is currently the third most popular cable news show in the country.
By the way, just to pause, I assume that's a slur against your ethnicity, correct?
I've talked about this on my Twitch a lot, but only the most important subjects are covered on Tucker's show, like white genocide, which is in fact something that the left is advocating for, apparently.
But he did not notably advocate for genocide. A Georgetown professor called Christine Fair did do that.
Imagine being a producer on Tucker's show, constantly scouring the internet looking for blue checkmark Twitter users saying dumb things while they're emotionally distraught in order to make wild claims like that the left is advocating for white genocide. Of course, this isn't how white genocide is actually happening. According to the folks Tucker is mirroring, white genocide is happening because immigration is changing the nation's demographics, and it's being justified by an evil liberal plot called diversity.
Diversity is our strength, they screech, as if that settles the conversation by itself, like a magic talisman.
Here is Tucker Carlson. This is another Media Matters video that I love. Basically, literally mirroring white nationalist agitated propaganda. Identical to what the white nationalist is saying. Here's Lana Lochtef saying the exact same thing that he's saying here. I mean,
As if that settles the conversation by itself, like a magic talisman.
Diversity. We hear about it nonstop. It's the mainstream motto.
Tucker's relentless attacks against diversity, multiculturalism, and immigrants as a whole are literally identical to white supremacists, white nationalists, and neo-Nazis. They're also reductive and oftentimes completely baseless comparisons.
How precisely is diversity our strength? Since you've made this our new national motto, please be specific as you explain it.
Well, for one, diverse executive boards generate better returns, among countless other studies that show the many benefits of diversity, but I'm sure the biases of racially anxious agitators are more important than empirical evidence.
Can you think, for example, of other institutions, such as, I don't know, marriage or military units, in which the less people have in common, the more cohesive they are?
Well, Tucker, you have the most in common with your family members. Are you suggesting keeping marriage within your family? Why do you want to have sex with your cousins, Tucker? Also, as far as non-diverse militaries go, maybe you should open a history book and take that up with General Robert E. Lee. Go on, Tuck. What else?
Latin American countries are changing election outcomes here by forcing demographic change on this country at a rate that American voters consistently say they don't want.
this guy, for the record, is what Glenn Greenwald is calling like a brilliant American military state guy.
This assertion is preposterous because, it's completely untrue. Just look at polling data. 75%.
He said Latin American countries are changing U.S. electoral outcomes because they're sending people by the droves. Okay? That's what he said. Which, by the way, again, so did Richard Spencer. That's the whole cut. Like, that cut is supposed to show what Tucker Carlson is saying is identical to what white nationalists, white supremacists say.
Some of Americans say that immigration is a good thing. So who are the Americans you're referring to here? These guys?
It sounds to me like we got a problem with people who got here legally, altering the landscape.
Another fucking Heil Titler ass bitch right here, Christopher Cantwell. Behold the master race, by the way. Every single person on the right side of the fucking screen is saying identical shit to Tucker Carlson is another ugly ass, out and about, openly fucking white nationalist, openly white supremacist Nazi, for the record.
Politically, I don't like it. You stop it.
But I guess we should just run the country on the white fragility of crying neo-Nazis as opposed to the overwhelming majority of Americans' wishes. But play us out, Tucker. Give us a cherry-picked example that could easily be countered with facts.
Hazleton's population was 2% Hispanic. Just 16 years later, Hazleton is majority Hispanic.
Yeah, the majority Hispanic population in Hazleton literally revitalized a dying fucking economy. Tucker Carlson looked at that positive example of immigration changing, yes, the demographic makeup of an entire town, while also simultaneously creating a tremendous amount of fucking opportunities for businesses to thrive in a town that like America had forgotten. And he literally is saying that like it's a bad thing. Why is it a bad thing? Because some of the people in Hazleton were fucking racist and literally thought he was right about the exchange. Brother, are you fucking stupid? Please understand something here. He is looking at demographic change as a bad thing across the board, even if it leads to economic growth. Do you understand? Do you understand why that is kind of stupid? Like, yes, Hazleton got an influx of migrants. Okay, well, not even like first-gen migrants, but just Hispanic people in general. Okay. And we're talking about like a tiny ass fucking town. So the demographic change did happen. It's still a profoundly fucking conservative place, by the way. So don't worry. But yes, immigrant enclaves unironically do tend to create economic opportunity for the people that live there that was left behind. So for the record, for you to look at a place like Hazleton and go, oh my God, it's so bad that the demographics change because it's like all Hispanics now in Hazleton, okay? It's all Hispanics now, even though they're fucking conservative too. If you were to look at that and go, I don't give a fuck about the economic prosperity that came into this town as a consequence, and I only care about how there are more immigrants there now, you're just a fucking idiotic racist. You get that, right? The article that Tucker Carlson is referencing here was unironically an article that legitimately promoted what happened to Hazleton. And he looks at that article and like picks apart the demographic shift and gets mad about it.
That's a lot of change. People who grew up in Hazleton return to find out they can't communicate with the people who now live there. And that's bewildering for people.
Hazleton's a perfect example of immigrants saving a small coal mining town from absolute economic annihilation by opening up small businesses, and even the large immigrant-run corporations who have brought jobs over to the small town. This is, of course, despite the efforts made by the white population to fight off the immigrant scourge with...
Just understand that real quick. Think about that, dude. Think about how fucking stupid that is. You're so profoundly fucking racist that you're like, I don't even want economic help. I don't even want economic prosperity if it means that, like, you know, immigrants are going to be living next to me, or people that, you know, are you know, they have the same opinions, that have the same background for the most part. They just, like, you know, one generation ago lived in a different country. I would rather die. I would rather let my bumfuck, deprived, destroyed, bumpkin ass fucking town continue rotting than let some lightly brown motherfuckers in. Okay, to shoot economic stimulus into the country, into the town itself. Think about how fucking racist you gotta be, dude. Holy shit.
unconstitutional regulations. And even the Nat Geo article that you're using here to advance your narrative mentions the reality that immigration has drastically improved Hazleton. But you won't hear that part because Tucker...
Like, look at this. Hazleton's population is younger, the hospital is no longer in bankruptcy, and major employers such as Amazon, Cargill, and American Eagle Outfitters have opened distribution centers and plants offering jobs.
Reality that immigration has drastically improved Hazleton. But you won't hear that part because Tucker's not in the business of making America better. He's just trying to do white identity politics. And I'm sorry to tell you this, Tucker, but facts don't care about your feelings. I'm Hassan Piker. If you're mad that...
So yeah, there you go. That's just like how Tucker Carlson cuts propaganda. Oftentimes he's just like, he doesn't hate capitalism, but he hates capitalism if capitalism is promoting diversity. Why? Because companies and their bottom lines are impacted positively by doing like diversity narratives and pandering, especially. That's why he cuts a lot of fucking propaganda talking about sexy ass M&Ms and how he wants to fuck and suck them. Okay. But, you know, that doesn't end there. We already covered the Rutger Bregman thing. Tucker Carlson got booted from Fox News, so it's worth recalling the most memorable interview he did. We already talked about that. Then the most telling Tucker Carlson segment for me was when he did a hit piece on Fidel Castro and specifically highlighted his sending of aid to Angola to help destroy the South African apartheid regime as one of his most evil acts. This is the guy who, according to Glenn Greenwald, was like, routinely defending. What did Glenn Greenwald say about Cuba? He said objected to regime change efforts in Cuba.
Come on, Professor. Why are you making... Look, that's monstrous. He put people in prison for criticizing him. He sent, as you know, a lot of his doctors an awful lot to places like Angola and Venezuela to help other revolutions in progress. There's no excuse for that. And here's my meta question. Why does the left make excuses for a monster like Fidel Castro? Why? Come on, Professor. Why are you making... Look,
a monster. A monster like Fidel Castro. Yes, the answer is because he's fucking hot, dude. That's why, because he's sexy. In all the deranged denunciations of Castro by conservatives and liberals, I've never seen anyone mention his sending of aid to Angola. But Tucker did, as he adores South African apartheid regime. Here is Mandela thanking Fidel personally for helping end that fascist regime.
You must tell me when you are coming to South Africa.
Me tiene que decir cuándo viene para Sudáfrica.
Yo sé, no, un momentito. Es seguro, sí, yo recibí.
The sooner the better.
And we have had a visit from a wide variety of people.
Una gran cantidad de personas.
Is this important politics? Yes, I think that the unceremonious separation of the most popular right-wing, nationalist, white nationalist propagandist being unceremoniously let go from the most successful, most popular news franchise in this country is pretty important. This guy is literally brainwashing your parents every goddamn night. Every night. He is a tremendously successful propagandist, and him being let go from Fox News is very important. Yeah. Think about like the old guy that shot the 16-year-old black kid. You know, that dude for sure is watching Tucker Carlson every goddamn night. Fox News is open at every retirement home. They're watching it non-goddamn stop. Anyway, but let's get back to this. Tucker Carlson was also the most deranged, fanatical pusher of neocon military-industrial complex, CIA security state push for a new Cold War against China. He almost single-handedly entered it into the mainstream of the U.S. and pushed liberals to follow suit. I don't agree with that. I don't think Tucker Carlson was single-handedly doing that, but the idea that Tucker Carlson wasn't regularly and routinely fucking agitating against China in the same way that like MSNBC does, in the same way that like everyone does on the liberal side, is true. The China threat, China is the real threat, not Russia. Remember, these guys, and Noam Chomsky has talked about this famously, you can spot a right-wing dove from a mile away for lying to you about their ingenuine takes on war, okay? They're disingenuous. Why? Because they're never anti-war on the principles of being anti-war. They're not anti-war because of humanitarian reasons. They're anti this war. They're anti this war that they consider to be not a good war. There are better wars out there that you could be fighting. That's what usually these guys will do. They'll lie about this. So at this stage, we still don't know why he left Fox News. But now that I've like given you the groundwork a little bit to understand that like all of the pro Tucker Carlson narratives that you're hearing from the media are going to be silly. Let's continue.
To send their message because they knew that Donald Trump would be watching and so closely tracking that show in and of itself. Do we know where he was in his contract? Are they going to be able to say that this was, end of his contract, they just wanted to try something different?
I'm not sure. I mean, I have been reaching out. I have also reached out to Tucker Carlson and everyone trying to get more information on this. But this is a very short statement. Also, notably, there's no statement from Tucker Carlson in here. It doesn't seem, if I had to guess, that they parted ways amicably. Yep. We'll be obviously looking for more information in the hours ahead.
I think the other question here is it's not just about this defamation case that has already been settled. There is more to come. There's more legal action, Smartmatic and others, and it does make you wonder if this is something to do with that, because it is so abrupt and it doesn't seem amicable at this point. Not with that statement.
That's right. There's a lot more legal.
I don't think this has anything to do with the fucking Smartmatic, Dominion defamation suits. Especially considering that Tucker Carlson's commentary on it was like, if Tucker Carlson is at like an 11 out of 10 when talking about fucking white nationalist agitated propaganda, doing racial agitation, he's at an 11 out of 10. When he was talking about like the election is stolen, he was just doing regular Republican ass shit. And when he was talking about specifically like, Dominion stuff, he strayed away from that regularly. He also privately totally recognized that, these guys were bad for business. Tucker Carlson may be a socialist, but he was a socialist that told Republicans to fight less wars, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. Of course, the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire would come out with some like unhinged ass statements like that and claim Tucker Carlson was a socialist, dude. Yeah. Tucker Carlson is pretty clearly a socialist. Here's one example of many of Tucker willing to use state violence to redistribute resources. It's fine to like Tucker because he stands up to the regime in a way, if you will, but he's still a socialist. Yeah, totally. Man, people just say things. Yeah, I know. But in the United States of America, socialism is whatever the fuck. Socialism is whatever the fuck, the most unhinged, the least educated right-wing weirdo claims it is, okay? It's never what, like, any of the theorists or economists or philosophers said socialism is. It's whatever the fuck the most unhinged right-wing guy thinks it is. Socialism means that you have to be poor. Socialism means that you can't have a car. You can't have a fucking house for your family. I know I'm sounding like someone who's being very specific, oddly specific about, shit that's been slung his way, but here, the decision is not, Los Angeles Times also reported on this, said the decision is not related to the $787.5 million settlement from Fox News. However, some of Carlson's comments about management that turned up in the discovery process for the case may have played a role in the demise. Carlson was by far the most popular host on Fox News, averaging more than 3 million viewers a night. All right, let's watch what these weirdos have to say,
action on the way for Fox News. They have the Smartmatic lawsuit, which is a $2.7 billion lawsuit that's also making its way through the courts, and that hasn't been resolved yet. So it's potentially possible that, Fox News just had enough. They maybe have needed a scapegoat, someone to just kind of throw and say, look, we got rid of this guy. Because they do have some other problems with shareholders probably upset that they had these election deniers go on air and knowingly spread falsehoods. So, there's a lot of things at play.
Yeah, but there was so much, that was happening for so long before we got to this point, right?
Yeah, but now they've had to pay $787 million, exactly. And they have shareholders who are not happy about that. That's a lot of money.
We'll see. Look, it's hard to imagine Fox all of a sudden just changing the way it does business completely. They've had to do payouts before. Let me just read this statement because it is so short.
Yeah.
It says, Fox News Media and Tucker Carlson have agreed to part ways. We thank him for his service to the network as a host, and prior to that as a contributor. Mr. Carlson's last program was Friday, April 21st. That's really incredible in its brevity there. Mm-hmm. As for Tucker Carlson, this may sound outlandish to some, but there are people who suggested that maybe he would become a Republican candidate himself.
And that's because of the firm grip he has exerted over the GOP in the last few years. I mean, I should say this, he's the top-rated host, not only on Fox, but really all of cable. I mean, he was commanding a huge audience, and he was very influential over that audience. It was a very loyal audience. They tuned in. If you look at the ratings would spike on Fox News specifically for Tucker Carlson. And so, yeah, he has a huge sway over GOP primary voters. I think that's why those questions were raised, whether he would potentially run for president one day. Doesn't seem like that's probably why he's leaving, given the statement and the way this ended here.
We've decided to part ways. It's not a way you send off your top-rated anybody on any show for any reason. Yeah. You don't cast them aside or part ways with them unless something is wrong. I mean, he was on the list for possible witnesses when it came to the Dominion voting trial.
He was supposed to be one of the first witnesses that they called to the stand, and of course that got averted when they had that settlement. Yeah. But we should also point out too, he is so extreme. I mean, the things that he was doing on his program make Sean Hannity look like a moderate. I mean, it started off more as he was a mainstream conservative figure, but he has really been radicalized in recent years, and he's also radicalized his audience. I mean, the things that were promoted on his show used to be what you would see on InfoWars, which is that far-right company hosted and founded by Alex Jones, who was also facing over $1 billion in legal problems. But it was being mainstreamed to the Fox News audience, which is obviously very dangerous. And so it's potentially possible that Fox thinks it can get away with someone more like Sean Hannity, who promotes a lot of conspiracy theories himself, but is a little bit more mainstream, not as radical as Tucker.
They've been letting this go on for years. This is not like new.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, the timing of all this. We'll have to wait and see what he says. I'm sure there will be something coming out from his side of things.
Well, that's kind of an interesting question, though, because what we do know when it comes to Fox and when they part ways with someone, just ask Gretchen Carlson.
NDAs. Non-disclosure agreement.
And also the interesting thing, too, is he free to jump to another network if that's something he wants to do? Newsmax, if he jumped to Newsmax, which is that smaller right-wing channel that Fox News was really worried about in the wake of the 2020 election, his audience, I'm sure, would follow him over there. So is he free to do that? Is that something he wants to do? Is it possible he wants to do something like Glenn Beck, start his own media empire on the side? There's a lot of different options for him here, depending on what his contract is.
And I will say, the legal problems for Fox are not over. They have the Smartmatic lawsuit. Smartmatic has sued Fox for more than Dominion did, and now you have a potential disgruntled ex-employee, Tucker Carlson, as a witness there.
And we should say this, too. Last week, after this Dominion lawsuit was settled, you saw Tucker Carlson kind of poke the eye of everyone when he went on his program and was just talking about, can you imagine a media company openly lying to the viewers? It seemed like a subtle reference to what Fox News was accused of and him trying to make it about the rest of the media. So, he really was someone who didn't seem bound by the normal rules over at Fox, and now his time there is coming to an end.
All right, Oliver Darcy, keep us posted. I imagine there will be more coming out.
The sudden and stunning end to Tucker Carlson's tenure at Fox. The network revealing just minutes ago that Carlson hosted his last show this past Friday. Carlson had been a network staple since back in 2009. 6 years, almost 7 years, he had his primetime show. Just 2 weeks ago, he headlined a very important network get, the first post-arraignment interview with the former President Donald Trump. Fox on air and in its statement brands this decision as mutual. Let's get straight to CNN's Oliver Darcy. Oliver, giant news. What do we know about how it happened and why?
This is really astonishing news, John. In the world of media and in politics, we don't really have any details outside the short statement that I want to read to you from Fox News, which was put out moments ago. It says, Fox News Media and Tucker Carlson have agreed to part ways. We thank him for his service to the network as a host and prior to that as a contributor. And it goes on to say that his last program already aired on Friday, April 21st, and that he will, or his hour will now be hosted by a rotating cast of different hosts over on the network. So a very short statement. I can't imagine that this was amicable. Notably missing from the statement was anything from Tucker Carlson himself. And John, this is huge, like I said, in Republican politics as well as media, because Tucker Carlson exerted so much control and so much power and influence over the Republican Party base. You often saw lawmakers like Ted Cruz go on his show and grovel at his feet when he would lash out at them on air and like you said, he was arraigned in New York court. And so this is a huge moment, I think, not only in media but also in politics for the whole country.
And so, Oliver, we want to be careful because there's a lot we don't know, as you smartly pointed out there. And you very smartly pointed out that there's no comment from Tucker Carlson in the statement issued by Fox. You can draw an inference from that, but we need to be careful. There was nothing, you very carefully covered the lawsuit, Dominion Voting Systems against Fox News. This is not required. There was nothing in that settlement. Fox settled the lawsuit, agreed to pay the money, and there was absolutely nothing like this on the table. So this comes as a total surprise, right?
As far as we know, that was not part of the settlement deal. Now, it's always possible that there was something in there that we didn't know. It's hard to imagine, John, that this is a coincidence. After Fox pays the highest defamation settlement ever that's publicly recorded in U.S. history, $787 million to Dominion last week. After the settlement, days after Tucker Carlson losing his show, it's hard to imagine these things are coincidental. But the network's not tying the decision to, and so we just simply don't know how directly connected they are. But hard to imagine that this was a coincidence days after that settlement.
It certainly is. Oliver Darcy, come back to us if you learn any more in the hour ahead on this big breaking news story. Appreciate the hustle to bring it to our viewers at the top of the hour. Now, some of Carlson's 3 million viewers will be surprised when they tune in tonight, and they'll find their favorite anchor missing. But if you were watching last hour, this is how you learned on Fox of this dramatic decision.
We have some news from within our Fox family. Fox News Media and Tucker Carlson have mutually agreed to part ways. Tucker's last show was this past Friday. We want to thank Tucker Carlson for his service to the network as a host and prior to that as a long-term contributor.
I want to bring in our CNN media analyst, Sarah Fisher. Sarah, just the way that was read right there, Harris Faulkner reading that on the air very calmly, very quickly, very dispassionately. Have you learned anything in the minute since we've learned this big news to the big question, which is why?
Well, we've asked Dominion spokespeople if this is explicitly tied. They said that there is nothing they can share yet about whether it's tied to the settlement. But the other thing that we're worried about or thinking about right now is what those tapes from former Fox producer Abby Grossberg may have uncovered. Of course, you'll recall that she was part of this suit in that she claimed that Fox News had sort of meddled with her testimony. She had then put out an amended legal filing shortly before the court case and said that basically there was tapes in which Rudy Giuliani and others were saying things about the voting machine fraud, Dominion, et cetera. So one could ask yourselves, is there something implicating there? But there was nothing that was a part of this agreement, to your point, John, that said that any personnel would be fired from the settlement. In fact, within this settlement, there wasn't even any requirement that Fox had to apologize or retract any of its reporting.
And Sarah, he said the 8 o'clock hour, since Megyn Kelly moved on. That's almost 7 years. I think 6 are going on 7 years ago now. The timing, you could look backwards, and you look just a week or so ago, the Dominion settlement. You can also look forward. Fox, whatever you think of it, whatever people watching think of the network, making this decision as we head into a 2024 presidential campaign cycle. Somebody who, as we noted, had the first post-arraignment interview with the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, who's the Republican frontrunner. For a network that prides itself on its political coverage, to do this at this moment is stunning and tells you something.
Absolutely does. Not only was Tucker Carlson like the highest rated personality on Fox, John, he was one of the highest rated shows on all of cable. So it's an explosive move that Fox is going to do this, especially to your point ahead of the 2024 election. There isn't really like a backup for Tucker Carlson. There's no major personality that brings in the same kind of ratings that he does. The Five does very well, one of their shows, but it's not like they have someone in their stable that they're going to be able to replace him with. I do think it's notable that they didn't give Tucker Carlson a chance to even sign off. To me, that tells you that part of this decision may have been a little bit rushed. We don't know who's going to replace him. All we know for now is that hour will continue with political coverage. They ran a promotional spot earlier today touting an interview with a potential candidate. We just don't know who's going to be the permanent host quite yet.
And so Oliver Darcy is still with us as well. Let's walk through some of what we do know. Again, we're waiting to learn more about the whys, Oliver. But in the Dominion suit, the text, Tucker Carlson's text, and several Fox hosts' texts, essentially saying what they knew to be true versus what they were saying on television, raising questions about the election. He said of Sidney Powell, who was the Trump lawyer, who was a frequent guest of his program, Sidney Powell is a lying I'm not going to say it on television. Effing bitch. You see that there? Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah. Oliver's not with us anymore. Stay with us. This was one of the hypocrisy, if you will, of what was happening. Tucker Carlson was not alone, but his program, as its lead primetime program at the moment, had that. Then other texts about moving on from Trump. We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait. I hate him passionately. Tucker Carlson saying that in his texts. And then again, on the air defending Donald Trump, on the air spreading Trump's lies about a rigged election. And then just recently, that had to be an awkward moment, sitting across from him and giving that interview right after the arraignment.
Yeah, well, I think the most damning stuff, if this firing is actually tied to the settlement, John, is actually some of the stuff.
Rewind. What happened? We know what Tucker Carlson has said.
Promotional spot earlier today touting an interview with a potential candidate. We just don't know who's going to be the permanent host quite yet.
And so Oliver Dorsey is still with us as well. Let's walk through some of what we do know. Again, we're waiting to learn more about the whys, Oliver. But in the Dominion suit, the text, Tucker Carlson's text, and several Fox hosts' texts, essentially saying what they knew to be true versus what they were saying on television, raising questions about the election. He said of Sidney Powell, who was the Trump lawyer, who was a frequent guest of his program, Sidney Powell is a lying, I'm not going to say it on television, effing bitch. You see that there?
You can say
sorry,
bitch
Sarah,
on television, but not effing.
Stay with us. This was one of the hypocrisy, if you will, of what was happening. Tucker Carlson was not alone, but his program, as its lead primetime program at the moment, had that. Then other texts about moving on from Trump. We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait. I hate him passionately. Tucker Carlson saying that in his texts. And then again, on the air defending Donald Trump, on the air spreading Trump's lies about a rigged election. And then just recently, that had to be an awkward moment, sitting across from him and giving that interview right after the arraignment.
Yeah, well, I think the most damning stuff, if this firing is actually tied to the settlement, John, is actually some of the stuff that Tucker Carlson was saying about trying to get a fellow Fox News reporter fired for her accurate coverage, for trying to accurately fact check a Donald Trump tweet. Donald Trump had tweeted something praising Fox News.
Bro, this dog's out of control.
The voting systems machines that referenced Dominion. That Fox News reporter, who is a colleague of Tucker Carlson's, fact checked it. And so when in pre-trial discovery hearings, we found out that they're pushing to get reporters fired for trying to do accurate reporting. To me, that's actually even more damning as it pertains to the Dominion suit, the settlement, and potentially his firing being connected to the settlement, than what he was saying about Donald Trump. Because we know that it was hypocritical, but again, what he feels about Donald Trump doesn't necessarily impact Dominion's lawsuit for defamation.
But yeah, speaking of abrupt media firings, obviously we have to cover this while I try to deal with being a dad at the same time. Let's cover Tucker Carlson. In a lawsuit, Tucker Carlson is accused of promoting a hostile work environment. Turns out Carlson's former head of booking, Abby Grossberg, said that male producers regularly used vulgarities to describe women and frequently made anti-Semitic jokes. The suspicion is that this is the reason why Tucker Carlson might be out at Fox News. Not the Dominion case, nothing else, but legal trouble. Tucker Carlson is facing a lawsuit from his former head of booking, Abby Grossberg, who says she was subjected to a hostile and discriminatory work environment. Ms. Grossberg, who was fired by Fox News shortly after she filed 2 lawsuits against the company in March, joined Mr. Carlson's team in 2022 after several years as a senior producer for Maria Bartiromo, another Fox News host. Maria Bartiromo, famously on the Fox Business side. Okay. Ms. Grossberg said in the lawsuit naming Mr. Carlson that I don't know why she's surprised she worked at Fox News. No, literally. I mean, she doesn't deserve to be subjected to this shit, but it's like in between booking like the latest and greatest voices in the white supremacist movement. She was surprised that she was surprised to find out that her anti-Semitic guest that she was booking for the Tucker Carlson broadcast of anti-Semitism it said anti-Semitic things. It's very odd. On her first day working for Mr. Carlson, Ms. Grossberg said she discovered the office was decorated with large doctor pictures of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi wearing a plunging swimsuit. She said she once called into the top producer's office to be asked whether Ms. Bartiromo was having a sexual relationship with the House Speaker, Republican leader Kevin McCarthy. Ms. Grossberg also said in her lawsuit that after she was coerced by Fox's lawyers into providing a misleading deposition in a recent defamation case brought by Dominion Voting Systems and defending an offensive text from Mr. Carlson, His producers emailed the rest of the staff in recognition of Abby Day and suggested ordering a staff lunch to celebrate. Fox has disputed Ms. Grossberg's claims, and Mr. Carlson hasn't said anything publicly about the case. We will continue to vigorously defend Fox against Ms. Grossberg's unmeritorious legal claims, which are riddled with false allegations against Fox and our employees, a Fox News spokeswoman said. The lawsuit filed in the Southern District of New York also names Fox Corporation, Fox News, some network executives, and several of Mr. Carlson's producers are defendants. Yes. She's going to be wide awake tonight. She's wide awake every night, my man. I don't think there's anything I can do about that. In a statement on Monday, one of Mrs. Grossberg's attorneys, Tanvir Rahman, said that Carlson's departure from Fox News is, in part, an admission to the systemic lying, bullying, and conspiracy mongering claim by our client. Mr. Rahman said that the legal team will be taking Mr. Carlson's deposition and those subordinates in the very near term. So, woman who worked at Fox News discovers that Fox News is right-wing. More on this surprising news at 10. First of all, this is a real the leopards ate my face moment. But honestly, I love that. Like, I don't give a fuck. It's true. First of all, no one should be subjected to, vile anti-Semitic or misogynistic attacks in their workplace. But having said that, let's be fucking very clear. Let's be very real. Okay? Am I shocked that this woman was shocked? Yeah, I am actually. The fuck do you mean? Like, your job was to literally book, like, everything short of Richard Spencer as Tucker Carlson's booker. Like you knew he's a white supremacist. The fuck do you mean? It's like, oh man, I sure hope when I clock into my racism factory job that there isn't racism on the fucking product line. It sure would be silly and bad. It's like, bro, what are you doing? I mean, I'm in favor of blaming her for doing her job. Yes, doing her job at the racism factory, dog. Like, what the fuck do you mean? This is like the same energy as those dumbass white supremacist Barbie dolls that were like frustrated that like the alt-right was not treating them with kindness and kept telling them to shut the fuck up and like have a child already. Yeah, this classic. Alt-right women are upset that the alt-right men are treating them terribly. It's like, what do you expect? Of course. They're literally like, man, what? This entire movement that we have like created around white supremacy and like traditional roots is coming back to haunt us because we are also like one level of marginalization removed from white men. So obviously they're going to shit on us too. That's crazy. Who would have thought, dude? I'm shocked. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. Tucker Carlson's a gigantic piece of shit. I mean, he's a threat for sure. I don't know where he will go. My immediate reaction was maybe he wanted more money. But it does seem like there could have been some legal complications. I still think he wanted more money. I'm going to be honest with you. Not to do that like this was my original fucking take, and that's why I want to double down on it. I think that he wanted money. He wanted so much fucking money that Fox News literally used this as a reason for separation, like an embarrassing reason for separation for him. Because normally I feel like this is the type of lawsuit that they just immediately clear up on in arbitration. You know what I mean? But it does seem kind of weird that it would come in this like incredibly unceremonious way. So maybe there's more to it, and I don't know. Fox also facing another larger defamation suit from Smartmatic in addition to the stuff he was saying about leadership. Yeah, I mean, yeah, up until this morning, I think he thought that he was going to be live tonight, and then they let him go, and that is important. If some TV personality is a threat, what do you even have worth protecting? Brother, I've talked about this a lot, but there is no such thing as like a commentator on the left that could be seen as a genuine, viable threat. But if you are reinforcing the hierarchical oppression, the hierarchical forms of oppression, okay, as Tucker Carlson does, as Ben Shapiro does, you can get a lot of mileage out of that commentary. If cops are already brutalizing black people, as long as you say, hey, cops aren't brutalizing enough black people, it's actually quite normal for cops to brutalize black people, and they should do it more, that's very different than someone being like, hey, you should defend yourself against cops brutalizing black people, right? Do you understand? Because when you say, hey, you should defend yourself against brutalizing, hey, black people, you should defend yourself against cops, all of a sudden, boom, you're like a legitimate threat, a much larger threat, as a matter of fact, even if you don't actually get ahead, even if you don't actually get people to arm themselves and genuinely present a threat to law enforcement operatives. Propaganda obviously is not the end-all be-all, but right-wing propaganda in a reactionary state from basically the functional state apparatus, which is damn near the entirety of all of these private media companies, but especially so for Fox News because they are directly tied to the Republican Party. Like this was a news broadcast that was created with the express purpose of like manipulating the Republican Party and to have it do the corporate interests, the corporate bidding that they wanted it to do, and have it dominate in the American political ecosystem. And they were incredibly successful. So, you know, I don't know that the decision to fire Tucker Carlson came straight from Fox News' Fox Corporation chairman Rupert Murdoch. I don't know what that means. I don't know if they're like trying to save face. There's going to be two different things here to take a look at. One is going to be what the legitimate reasons are, like what the, and then two, what is the actual stated reason? And both are still very important. What is the stated reason? That means like this is what Fox News is trying to do PR around. Like they're making it seem as though they're like officially moving in a certain direction, right? That's what we need to find out. I understand his advertising revenue was down since 2019. Yeah, but like he was the most popular fucking broadcast. His advertising revenue was down because he was doing blood libel on a fucking nightly basis. But he also created a tremendous amount of cultural relevance for Fox News within the Republican base because he had a deep understanding of what the Republican base was demanding, which is, of course, reactionary, white nationalist, agitated propaganda. And he did it with a suit and tie, and he did it very well. He was able to cut propaganda incredibly fucking well without, like, actually, you know, crossing the lines of, like, liberal sensibility. He never openly said that he is an open, out and about white supremacist, but he basically said everything other than that. You know what I mean? Wait, what? Trump is live today at 9 p.m.? Oh, it caught Trump world by surprise? What the fuck? An intriguing move. Former President Donald J. Trump has decided on the venue for his first public comments about Tucker Carlson's ouster. Newsmax, one of Fox News' major rivals. Trump will appear on the channel at 9 p.m. for an interview with the Newsmax anchor Greg Kelly. That's crazy. I hope this makes people understand, though, like how important this decision is. Because, like, you got literally the former president milking this. You got the former president running content around this. Like, think about how important that shit is, dude. Oh, my God. Tucker VP announcement. It's over. Donald Trump would literally win if that was the case, by the way. I mean, they're really beefing up Newsmax, too. The announcement on Monday that Fox News is parting ways with its top-rated primetime host, Tucker Carlson, stunned people in Donald J. Trump's orbit. The former president himself was surprised by the news, according to a person with direct knowledge, and his eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., who was a close friend of Mr. Carlson's, described the network's decision as mind-blowing. I mean, it is mind-blowing. I think it changes things permanently, Donald Trump Jr. said on the Charlie Kirk Show, adding that Mr. Carlson was once an actual thought leader in conservatism and a once-in-a-generation type talent. The casual news observer would be forgiven for thinking that Mr. Trump and his family no longer had a relationship with Mr. Carlson, given the recent disclosures of the Fox host's scathing private text messages. in the network's legal battle against Dominion voting systems. In early 2021, as Mr. Trump desperately tried to overturn the 2020 election, Mr. Carlson texted a confidant that he hated the president passionately. He also described Mr. Trump as a demonic force. When the texts were released in March, Mr. Trump was wounded and called Mr. Carlson to talk about them, according to a person familiar with the outreach. I do think he will be like gracious to Tucker Carlson because he recognizes his importance as like a propagandist for conservatism. But I do think he might not stop himself and basically hit that like, anyone that comes after Trump loses. Last year, some of Mr. Trump's advisors had worried that Mr. Carlson has seemed poised to support the potential presidential candidacy of Mr. Trump's top rival, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida. Mr. Carlson had given Mr. DeSantis plenty of airtime and praised his policies. But over the past 6 weeks, as Trump and Carlson spoke more often, the Trump team felt increasingly confident that Mr. Carlson would not be weighing in for Mr. DeSantis, who has been heavily promoted by Rupert Murdoch's media properties, including Fox News. Yeah, they juiced him up, thinking that they could help out, thinking that they could use him as like a replacement for Trump that was more manageable by the Republican Party, and it didn't work out. It failed. It mostly failed because of shit like this, by the way, which, got to talk about real quick. Because of stuff like this, Ron DeSantis in Japan, when asked about his falling poll numbers against Trump, said he isn't a candidate yet. Here, let's take a look at what he's saying. Why is he in Japan, by the way? Get the fuck out of there.
Governor, polls show you falling behind Trump. Any thoughts on that?
I'm not a candidate, so we'll see if and when that changes.
Dude, look at his face. Like, bro, you got no riz, dog. What the fuck is this? It's like freakish. Just like behaving this way is like unironically freakish, dog. It's so weird.
I'm not a candidate, so we'll see if and when that changes.
Like, fuck does that even mean? You know what I mean? What does that even... Not delayed if you don't watch the video. Perfectly fine here, audio frogs. The Trump team liked their odds even more when they learned that Mr. Carlson was disgusted with Mr. DeSantis' decision in a late March to call Vladimir Putin a war criminal. What the fuck? Why? Like, why is Tucker Carlson so fucking disgusted? Like, my takes on the matter. I think, like, Vladimir Putin sucks, but I do think that America has a dog in the fight for not real, like, emancipatory reasons, but instead to sell weapons, right? They have all... They want to extend the war for as long as possible. I would never fucking say that Vladimir Putin is not a war criminal, because he is. Most leaders are. Greg Gutfeld just made a joke about Tucker running for president in 2024, and Janine Pirot switched the topic quick. Oh, uh-oh.
You think that Susan Rice is going to take on Kamala Harris for the nomination?
I think there is a chance.
I'll watch it.
And then, so in 2024, it'll be Susan Rice versus Tucker Carlson.
Okay, up next, Bill Maher ripping into liberals for failing to call out the crime crisis in Democrat cities.
You think that Susan Rice is going to take on...
It's probably to make it seem like he has bona fides in like foreign policy, but you can't really do that as a governor. So he's trying to do like a press run, basically, to be like, you see, I did actually do some foreign policy when I was in Japan, which like a former president like Donald Trump is 100% going to be like, yeah, shut the fuck up. I was the president, idiot. I have significantly more experience than you. You know, you have no experience in foreign policy. This is like how a lot of times congresspersons are dunked on when the only reason why he's there is literally to fucking say like, oh, look at me, I'm doing foreign policy as a governor. That's it. Anyway, a lot of people are saying Tucker Carlson is a giant, which he is true. Fox's share price fell almost 3% on Monday following host Tucker Carlson's departure, which makes sense. I mean, they lost their biggest talent, marking the network's worst day in a run of losses since it settled with Dominion. Last week, company share price fell below $30 per share on Monday, down roughly 4.5% since the start of the month. That compares to a modest gain for the broader S&P 500 index over the same period. Yeah, it's wild. But we know. I mean, we don't know what will happen to him. But, you know, after fucking leaving Fox News, these guys don't actually have like a blossoming media career. Look no further than Glenn Beck. You know, the Blaze is propped up by right-wing billionaires, but ultimately not great. Is always in a state of like dire circumstances financially. Unless they go to like unless they leave Fox News because they're too moderate and then they get a cushy liberal media job, you know, they're kind of cooked. Look at Bill O'Reilly, the one-time host for Fox News' show, The O'Reilly Factor, was fired in 2017 amid a sexual harassment scandal. Mr. O'Reilly now hosts No Spin News, a political opinion podcast that ranks number 71 in Apple's top podcast charts for news shows in the United States, according to Chartable. Like, that's awful. The site had a total 1.2 million visits last month, his site. Fox News' flagship news site had 329 million visits during the same period. He also used to have like 2 million viewers a night. You know what I mean? 2 million plus viewers a night. So it's just, you know, you definitely do fall off after that platform is removed from under you. So we'll see what happens. He could get a job at the Daily Wire, possibly. So we'll figure out what happens there. But Murdoch is said to be concerned over Carlson's coverage of the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol, which could be true. I mean, Murdoch is a bit of a fucking old, annoying lib. Here's what Charlie Kirk has to say. We got to do a little bit of hog watch here to see what the conservative ecosystem has like been chirping about. I'm sure people are blaming like the woke left for his firing or some shit, even though it was Fox News that fired him. But let's hear what Charlie Kirk is saying.
Last piece of advice for young people: get married.
Yeah,
Think
get married
small.
and have a ton of kids. I mean, get married when you're too young, have more kids than you can afford, take a job you're not qualified for, live boldly, stop getting high, stop doing anything that blurs your vision or makes time go faster. You're going to die before you know it. Don't waste a second. That's the sin, is living thoughtlessly and wasting time. It's the one thing you can't get back. I've wasted a lot of money in my life. Oh my gosh. I don't care. I don't regret any of it. Every room service meal was worth it. It was fine. But any time that I wasted is really bitter for me.
Yeah, of course he wasted a lot of fucking money. He's been profoundly rich his whole goddamn life. Like,
because it's finite. And so live as fully as you can. And you can't control all this stuff that's going on. You can't control what Google does. And honestly, they're going to win. Like, the powers that be will win, at least in the short term. Ultimately, they'll all blow up. But like, we're powerless and hated. I think this myself all the time. Are they going to crush me? Oh, yeah. Okay. But in the meantime, you know, I want to experience.
Why are you so liberal? I am not.
My life as fully as I possibly can. And I think that starts with having like a ton of kids, like way more than like Mormon levels of kids. I mean that.
This graph is telling. One of the more extraordinary graphics in the New York Times lengthy profiles of Tucker Carlson. He used to relish debating his guests. The conversation, though, grew strikingly one-sided. Out of the nearly 7,000 guest appearances, about 1,000 of them highlighted in yellow contradicted Mr. Carlson. Each dot represents an appearance. Gray dots are guests who largely agreed with Mr. Carlson. Here's Robert Kennedy Jr., anti-vaxxer, blaming Big Pharma. Running for president, by the way. Fox fires Tucker Carlson 5 days after he crossed the red line by acknowledging the TV networks pushed a deadly and ineffective vaccine to please their pharma advertisers. Carlson's breathtakingly courageous April 19 monologue broke two of TV's biggest rules. The content he lambasted obsequious newscasts for promoting jabs. They knew to be lethal and worthless. For many years, Tucker has had the nation's biggest audience, averaging 3.5 million, 10 times the size of CNN. Fox just demonstrated the terrifying power of Big Pharma. Yeah, I don't think that's the case, man. Tucker Carlson's been doing anti-vaccine propaganda that was significantly more effective than whatever he did on that coverage for, you know, an entire goddamn year. So you're delusional if you think that that is the one time. Can you give talking points for the Cleopatra documentary? In the Greek hyper-online community has created tons of right-leaning kids due to the blackwashing. What? I have no idea what that is, and I don't know what the fuck's going on. And also the concept of blackwashing sounds insane. Yeah, I just don't know what you mean by that. There's a Netflix documentary with Cleopatra being a black woman. What? What is this? There's a lot in this incredible freak in our series of Utah District Attorney ritual child sex abuse fake Native American Mormon bishop weed dealing case. Wait, what? What the fuck is going on here? I saw this video flying around on Twitter and I haven't watched it yet, but I will. So anyway, I think we've talked enough about Tucker Carlson though. Oh, here's a thread. Shouts out Lil Bear of Hogs malding over Tucker leaving. Submissions welcome. Fox Corporation market value plummets after shock Tucker Carlson exit. Say goodbye to the First Amendment. Free speech is dead. Why? Because Tucker Carlson is what? In jail. They put him in the jigsaw trap. Tucker Carlson, what happened? You're no longer on Fox News. Is it due to the lawsuits of the network? Where are you going? I'm following you wherever you work. Totally disappointed and so upset. I'm following you to your home. DC Drano, powerful clip from Tucker's recent spot on the Full Send podcast. He says media is controlled by powerful people who run the world. It shouldn't be trusted, and he regrets being a part of the propaganda machine for many years. I remember him saying this and thought, no way, yet now it all makes sense. Yeah. Tucker, you outgrew Fox. Move on and bring us the truth, says Samantha Sterling. So many fucking like middle America wine moms, dude, that love Tucker. I couldn't wait to watch Tucker's show at 8 p.m. And if I couldn't be there by then, his show is on DVR. I'm done with Fox News. Going FT now to Newsmax. Because they have to investigate both Hunter and Jared Kushner's dealing with the Saudis. Hunter was a private citizen. Kushner worked for the White House. He received $2 billion from the Saudis, says Marvel Maven, who is a blue wave liberal. We all know you were too good for Fox, just like Judge Janine and Jesse. Sad to see your favorite evening news show go. We will miss tuning into Fox News. Deb Vader says, Tucker, I'll follow you wherever you go. Let us know where that is, and you decide what you'll be doing. My husband and I watched you every night. Sounds to me like Glenn Greenwald has been a significant influence on Tucker's life. Wouldn't surprise me to see the two of them get together something before long. Tucker on a Fox News spaceship. Tucker burning Fox News with jet fuel as he is on a spaceship named after him. So I think that's enough for Tucker Carlson and the speculation surrounding him.